Welcome, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to anyone who's just joining us. I see a lot of familiar names, and so hopefully this will be a fun session today. So just a reminder for everyone, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box or in the Q&A, and I will make sure we answer them at the end. So whenever they pop into your head, or if you just want to wait till the end to ask them, totally fine. With this new mic, if you have any trouble hearing me at any point, just let me know in the chat. I'm keeping an eye on it just because I know with the new technology, it doesn't always work, right? So let's get started. So today I'm going to talk about the keys to effective email marketing and give you some good practical tips about how you can really implement them into your strategy day to day. So first, let's take a look at what we're going to talk through exactly. So we're going to talk about the 2 key factors, how I create my campaigns. We're going to do that Q&A, and then I have a fun and exciting announcement at the end, which some of you may already know about, but maybe not everyone. All right, so the first key that I want to talk about is value. And if you've been to these sessions before, you know that this is something I talk about a lot, but specifically when it comes to email marketing, it's really important to make sure that you're providing value to your audience. And so some of the ways that I remember how to do this is to constantly remind myself of the mission and purpose that I have for my business, because that's what's driving all of my work, right? So what I'm doing for my audience is going to be connected to the ultimate purpose of my business. The second piece is answering frequently asked questions. So if you ever have questions about what should I write about, think about what people ask you most often. That's typically going to be what's most valuable to your audience. And then even ask your audience. I do this a lot in these webinars. I'm always asking, hey, what topics do you guys want to learn about? What kind of people within my network what kind of questions are they asking? I'll just ask pretty much anyone, hey, about these topics, like what are some questions you have? So that's a couple ways that you can determine what your audience is going to find really valuable. So to break that down a little bit more, just an example. So looking at my business, Westfall Digital Strategies, my mission is to alleviate the stress of marketing for small business owners and help them make money doing what they love, right? So I want to help market their business so that they don't have to. They don't have to deal with the stress. They can really focus on their clients and on their work and basically, earn some more money, because that's what all for-profit businesses want to do, right? And so when I'm creating my emails and creating my campaigns and planning ahead, some of the ways that I think about this to make sure I'm actually connecting with my audience is I think, does this topic fit into my company mission? Is this topic going to help to alleviate stress in some way for business owners? And are they going to be able to take what I'm teaching or talking about or writing about and apply it to their business in a way that's going to help them grow and help them to earn some more clients, earn some more money, all of those fun things? And so those are the questions I ask myself. And if the answer is no, it's not going to do any of those things, then I don't do it. Then it's not a good decision. It's not a good idea. But if the answer is yes, even just one of those, then that's typically how I pick what to write about. And then the other thing I ask is, how does this help me to reach my goals? So I have goals for my own business, and just thinking about, okay, what kind of clients am I looking to add to my schedule? What kind of projects do I want to work on? All of these kinds of things. What are my goals? How is this going to support that? That also helps me to know whether or not a topic is going to be valuable to my business as well as my audience. So it might be that a lot of people are asking me about Twitter. Well, that is great, but if I'm not currently looking to take on more clients who need me to manage their social media or specifically manage Twitter, then I'm not necessarily going to want to write or talk about Twitter as much, because that's not where my goal and my objective is, right? If I'm looking to take on new email clients, then I'm going to be wanting to create content around that, because that will allow me to get in front of people who are looking for that support. So even thinking through some of those pieces is really, really helpful. And then the third piece kind of goes in with both of those. And so, does this content really support my audience? Is there something that they're going to walk away from knowing this content, reading this, listening to this, watching this, and saying, okay, I feel like I've actually got somewhere to go with this. This wasn't a waste of my time. I feel like I have a handle on what I'm doing. So those are the 3 questions I ask myself. And I would say start with those. If you're like, well, I don't really know how to apply all this, start there and then tweak them to match what your business is about, right? And update them as you go on. And so I do this for every email. And it's really helpful to have this as an exercise because it's super, super easy to get lost in the weeds and just saying, okay, well, I need to put an email out this week. I'm just going to write something. That's totally fine. There's nothing terrible about that, but you're missing out on an opportunity to really connect and build a relationship with a prospective client if you're not taking the time to really think about what's going to be valuable to them. So that's that first piece. That second piece of this first key is answering those frequently asked questions. Like I said, consider what you're being asked, and those are your next 10 emails, right? So a lot of people are going to have the top 10 FAQs or top 5 or however many, whatever that is, take those questions and turn them into prompts for your next email. They could be an email that's talking about a blog you just wrote, or it could be you're just sending out an email talking about the topic. Maybe someone's asking, how does your business work? Like, people want to understand what it is that you do. Write an email about that. Maybe people want to understand something new that's happening in your industry that there's not a lot of information about, but you have some solid information. Write an email about that. So thinking through these questions is a great way to create the kind of themes or content for your emails. And you can even rotate them, right? So think about, do you remember what someone wrote about 10 weeks ago? I have no idea. You could ask me literally anything. I have no idea what someone sent me an email about 10 weeks ago. So you could even rotate through those topics, obviously tweaking your content and making it relevant and new, but saying, okay, here's the general theme of what people really want to know about. Let me continue to write about that. So again, if you're not sure where to start, if you're not sure how to figure out what's valuable to your audience, start with what they're frequently asking you and then go from there. And then that third piece of asking your audience. So like I said, sometimes it's just a matter of going up to someone that you know, or even one of your current clients, and saying, hey, I really want to make my newsletter more interesting and more valuable to you and to all my other subscribers. Can I get your thoughts? Can we talk for 5 minutes and can I ask you a few questions? Or you shoot them an email and say, hey, when you get a chance, would you mind responding? These kinds of things. And it could be something like asking, what's the biggest challenge you're currently facing? Hopefully, if this is your client, you already know this, but maybe it's a prospective client, maybe it's someone in your industry or kind of adjacent to you. And so if you ask them these questions, they might have some insights that you hadn't thought of or that you hadn't heard from others. I would ask, between X and Y, which are you most interested in learning about? So I do this a lot with trying to figure out some of my topics. I'll ask friends and colleagues, okay, would you rather learn about the Instagram algorithm or LinkedIn? Like, if I have to choose between these 2 options, what are you more interested in right now? What's more relevant to you? And then I use that to inform my decision making. And then the other question you can ask is, what are other newsletters you love? What are some newsletters that you already subscribe to? And then you can look at those and see what other creators are creating and not necessarily copy, but base some of your content off of that. If you're saying, oh, okay, I see that this person is continually talking about their expertise in this field, and people really seem to engage with that. Or, okay, I see how they've set up their email. This flow works really nicely. So you could even get some ideas from those other newsletters that you may not be aware of. So reach out to your network, reach out to people you trust, reach out to your clients and say, hey, what do you think about this? What topics are you wanting to learn more about? I do this all the time, and it's really, really helpful. All right, the next one is consistency. Surprise, surprise. I feel like that is something I'm constantly talking about. And consistency is really important when it comes to email marketing, just like with social media or any other marketing tactic, because it builds trust and it starts to build expectation, which really leads to conversions, whether it's conversions to, from a cold lead to a warm lead, or from a, general lead to a full-blown client. Whatever it is, when you can build up trust and even create some expectation where people are looking for your emails, that's what's going to help you to really convert your audience into paying clients. So I love that gif of Aladdin. It popped in my head when I was making this. So you want your audience to trust you. So here's how you can be consistent, right? So plan your content ahead of time. And this stuff really does take time. I think that's the hardest thing for a lot of small business owners is we don't feel like we have a lot of time. And oftentimes we don't. I know that it feels like every time someone asks me how things are going, I'm like, it's great. I have no time to do anything. I could literally work all day and all night and still have things to get done, which I know all of you probably feel the same way. So planning ahead is really key to being consistent, because then you don't get stuck in that, fear factor of like, oh my gosh, tomorrow's the day that I'm supposed to send this out and I don't have anything planned and I have no idea what I want to talk about. And now I have to spend X amount of time figuring it out. The quality of your content is going to be hurt if you don't plan ahead. So for me, what I like to do is I like to plan anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks out. And that doesn't mean I like write everything out. It says, okay, I want to talk about these things because I know that currently these are relevant topics and I believe that they're going to continue to be relevant. And then also they're supporting my business goals, right? So for my email marketing campaigns and for my newsletter, I base them off of the topics of these webinars, right? So they all go hand in hand because for me, it just doesn't make sense to try to do two things, to write a different blog and newsletter and then have a totally different concept for these webinars. That just feels like a lot of extra work that's not helping me. So, and it's not helping you honestly either. So looking at that and saying, okay, I know not only what my webinars are going to be about for the next 8 weeks, but I know also what my blog posts and my newsletters then are going to be about. And so by creating that, all I do every morning when I wake up to write those blog posts and create that newsletter is I look at my calendar for the webinars and I say, okay, this is what I'm writing about this week. And so that honestly takes my stress level from like an 11 to like a 2, right? So I can plan ahead. I can even think ahead, weeks ahead and say, okay, I want to write about this, but I know that there's been some changes. Let me go research that some more. So I can help myself where I'm not procrastinating and getting to a place where I just feel overwhelmed and then just don't do it, right? So that is a really key piece, and setting it in your schedule to say, okay, every 6 weeks or, the end of every month, I'm sitting down and I'm planning ahead. So for me, at the end of July, I'm going to sit down, and even though I already have August planned, I'm now going to look to September and October for my content and to say, okay, what do I think people are going to be wanting to know about? What are people asking me? What are some things that I'm doing in my business that I'm going to want to share about? And so I plan ahead for all of that. And then obviously as things happen and tweaks need to be made, I do that. But planning that big picture content is really going to be beneficial, and it doesn't have to take forever. A lot of times it takes me like maybe an hour to sit down and just think critically about what I want to share about, update my system so that it'll remind me what I need to create, and then update my calendar. So definitely do that. I even recommend taking some time this weekend, maybe sitting down, creating that calendar, and starting to plan ahead. The second piece, and this kind of goes with what I said, is connect to the content you're already creating. So if you're already writing a blog, if you're already doing a webinar, if you're already doing workshops, if there's already some kind of campaign that you have going on, engage this into that. So take your email marketing and add it to the campaigns that you're already doing, and that will also help you to not feel overwhelmed, to not have to do too much extra stuff. Like there's no reason to create more content every week than you really need if you can do two things at once, right? So when I create my blogs, I'm in essence creating my email newsletters and my webinars in that one blog post, because I can take that content and repurpose it. So make sure that you're connecting it to things that you're already doing, and then just add it into your schedule. And then, like I said, schedule your creation time into your calendar. I'll show you what that looks like for me on the next slide, but this has been the biggest game changer for me. And I do this with all of my clients. I just had a conversation even this morning with a client of mine, and we're adding a lot more blogging into our contract and into our work. And so now I'm going to add that into my morning routine because I know I'm going to need to do that ahead of time. And so I'm literally taking that chunk of time and I'm putting it in my calendar, and no one can schedule an appointment with me during that time. I can't do anything else during that time. That time is designated for these blog posts, for these email campaigns that I create for myself and for this client. And so taking that time to do that for you and essentially making an appointment with yourself is going to help you to stay consistent and to stay on top of all of it. Because it's really easy, especially when you're doing this for your own business, to say, okay, well, I need to have this client call because, well, this is my business, so I can just do it whenever. But you're not going to just do it whenever. Stick to what you've got. Make it a meeting with yourself. And then the fourth piece is to start with a schedule you can stick to. So I do a weekly newsletter, and I recommend people do a weekly newsletter, but only if they have the time and the opportunity and the content for it. So if you know that you could really only do a monthly one, then start with monthly. Get into the groove of creating that content on a regular basis and building up your community and building up your list and having a really well and engaged list, and then you can add in some more. I know for myself, I do this all the time. I bite off way more than I can chew, and it totally just bites me in the butt, right? I get so overwhelmed and then nothing gets done. Not only does it impact the work I'm doing for that email, but it actually impacts all my other clients. So taking just a little bit at a time is really helpful. So if you have nothing going on right now, there's no email newsletter for you, or you have one and you haven't updated it in a year, start with just once a month. Start there and see how it goes, and take baby steps until you can get to a point where you feel really confident. Because the other thing too is it may not be beneficial for your business to do it every week, right? I have these webinars every week and blog posts I share every week. There's a purpose behind the newsletters I share every single week, and it's beneficial. If I didn't have these weekly webinars or these weekly blogs, I would probably scroll it back a little, maybe do it every other week or once a month. But I have a purpose for my newsletters weekly, and I want to connect with people. So think about your audience, think about what works for you, and then create according to that. And then that fifth step is to just do it again. I think this is probably one of the hardest things, is you do it once and then you realize, oh gosh, I have to do this again. So every week I'm like, okay, I've written my newsletter, it's sent out, it's awesome, the blog's up, the webinar's up, and I celebrate. And then I remember I get to do it again the next week, and it just starts right over. The good news is I enjoy it, so it's exciting. But if it's something that's really a burden to you, start to tell yourself, okay, I get to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to work through it. Or hire someone else to do it for you, right? That's always something, and that's something I'm doing even with some of the pieces of my business, is I'm like, okay, I have to do this one thing consistently, and it is like that one thing I really hate in my business. And so I've outsourced it. I've hired someone in to do it for me. And it's been the best because it frees up my time. It frees up my mental and emotional energy. And I get to do more of the things that I love. So, if you're really struggling to get your email off the ground, consider hiring someone to do it for you, especially if you know and think that would be a really big, helpful benefit for your business. So that's kind of my little spiel on how to be consistent. Let me show you what my calendar looks like. So this is literally what I do every week. I have a 6 to 8 a.m. time period where I write my blog. So on Monday mornings from 6 to 8 a.m., which I know sounds kind of crazy, but I am a morning person, I write a blog. So I set that time. I literally, the night before, I take all my tabs, close them out, open up where I'm going to be writing. And so when I open my computer, all I can do is write. And so I create that blog. It normally will take me about 2 hours if I'm really going into it and taking the time to think through it, typically because I haven't done much prep ahead of time. And then the next day, on that Tuesday, I come in and I edit that blog. And so sometimes this might be adding some more sources. It might be fixing some grammar. Sometimes, honestly, it's deleting half the blog post and rewriting it because I'm looking at it and thinking, that's not what I want to say, or I could say that better here, or let's fix it and do this, right? So Monday's writing it, Tuesday's editing it, and then I send it off to my editor so he can make it even better, and then I don't touch it. And he sends it back to me on Friday by 12 with all of his edits, which are wonderful. I always read them and I think, man, if I could just write this well the first time around, it would be awesome. He just takes my thoughts and makes them even more clear. It's succinct, and so it's just great. Anyway, Carter's awesome. So I get those blog edits back, and then in my calendar, I say, okay, at 3 o'clock, I'm uploading it to my website, and then at 3:30, I'm creating my Monday morning fix. And so I block that time off, and so I just focus on that. And the more I do this, the faster I get, right? So the quicker I am at updating it, the more efficient I am, the easier it is. And so it makes it really simple. But if I don't do it on Friday, and there have been days where things happen, you know, people have an emergency, clients need you to do something, I fall behind on something, and I do that thing where I say, well, it's for my business, so I can do it whenever. I end up doing it Sunday night when really I don't want to be doing that, right? So setting that time on Friday is something I'm even working hard to be consistent with. And then I do it all again the next week, right? So Monday, it goes out at 7 a.m. and then I write that next blog. So this is what it looks like for me. That's not necessarily what it has to look like for you. Maybe you write your blogs in a shorter time span. Maybe it takes you a little bit longer. Whatever it is, consider what's going to work for you and then plan it out. And give yourself enough time. So if you have to send it off to someone to be edited or looked at, or if you want some, you know, time to revise it, plan those things into your week so that you don't get into that frantic, oh my gosh, I have to write a blog and edit it and upload it and write this newsletter all within an hour. That is the worst feeling. And most of the time, unless you're a really spectacular writer, it's not going to be your best work. So that is one of the ways that I really have found it to be super helpful. And what I'm now going to do probably is include on Wednesday and Thursdays is when I'm writing some of these new blogs for my clients, because I'm that morning person and it's really helpful. So that's just kind of a quick look at how I do it. I want to open it up now for you guys to ask some questions. If you have any questions about any piece of what we've talked about today or email marketing in general, feel free to ask them in the chat or the Q&A. If not, no worries. I know that was a lot of information. Sometimes it takes me a while to like process things. So I always end up having questions later, but you can always email me, ask me any questions, all that fun stuff. So, okay, cool. Let's see. Okay. Melissa, great question. So Melissa asks, once the blog post is ready to post, do you format slash add images, or does your editor? So for me, I do all of that. He just makes it sound or like look even better. It makes me sound even smarter. And so I go in and I'll upload it and include all my images. So that's also typically why it'll take me a little bit longer. So I just copy and paste it into my Squarespace website, and then I have a couple images already ready because I like to use a lot of the same ones every week, and then pop it in there. So yeah, definitely keeping that in mind too of, okay, do I have to do SEO? Do I need to add images? Do I need to add extra links? And planning that into your process is really helpful and important. So great question. All right, any other questions? Let's see. Awesome. Okay, well, if you have any other questions, please feel free to shoot me an email. Anyone who's attended any of my sessions, you have a free 30-minute consultation that you're able to use at any point, and we can talk about literally anything. It doesn't have to be about whatever topic we have talked about that week. So if you want to talk about social media, web design, search engine optimization, email marketing, as long as it's digital marketing, we can chat. So here are a couple final things. So I'm going to be sending you that follow-up email like I do every week with the recording of this webinar and the PowerPoint. I'll make sure it's the right one. And then it'll also have a feedback form, share, review, and request a topic. So if you would like to submit any of those, that would be wonderful. I love hearing your feedback. Anything from the sound quality needs to improve, why I bought a mic, to, hey, can we talk about this one week? That would be awesome. And if you want to leave a review, I'll feature it on my website with a link to your site. So if you want to kind of get even some more traction there, I would love to have us help one another. So those are a couple things there. And then this fun, exciting announcement, which I think most of you have probably heard, but maybe not everyone, is I am looking for some beta testers for a new course I'm launching. So I've gotten a lot of really great feedback on these mini sessions, which has been so wonderful and somewhat surprising. I knew they'd be helpful, but I didn't imagine just how much everyone would appreciate them. And so people have been asking for just kind of a deeper dive into some of these things, or, a lot of the questions I have in our consultations are just the kind of details and more specific things than what I can cover in these 30-minute sessions. And so if you would like to be a beta tester for the courses that I'm creating, please shoot me an email. And what you'll get is you'll have access to all of the courses I'm going to be creating early, and then 25% off all future courses. This first one will be free for you, and all I ask is that you complete it within the 2 weeks that I send it. So my goal right now is to send it to the beta testers on August 24th. They'll have 2 weeks to complete it, and then send me back all of their responses and feedback, and then I can make some edits and then launch it. So if you are interested, please send me an email. All I ask is that you commit to completing the course within those 2 weeks. Otherwise, it will normally be self-paced, and that'll be super exciting. So yeah, Lucy, send me an email. I would love to talk to you about that and see if you want to be a part of it. I'm looking to take on at least 10. So if you know someone, so if you have someone that you think would benefit from that course, it'll be a small business specifically. So I'm looking at the 24th of August. Lucy, great question. When's it starting? And then I'll update you guys along the way as well. So if you have anyone that is a small business owner who wants to learn more about digital marketing, please feel free to send them my information so they can be a part of it as well. Also, next week is going to be understanding email analytics. So if you are excited to understand more about how to actually analyze the results of your emails, that'll be our topic for next week. So that'll be perfect. Awesome. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. And if you need anything, just let me know. All right. See you next week. Bye.